Hi everybody! Thanks for joining me today for our first video on the Vernal Pool series. My name is Emily and I am currently walking on the Miles Lane Trail system towards the Vernal Pool. Have you all been to this Vernal Pool before? I'm really excited to talk more about these wetlands and about the animals that you can find here in these ecosystems. Well, what are these vernal pools? Also known as spring pools, vernal pools are temporary ponds that form in shallow dips on the forest floor where melting snow and rainwater collect during the wet spring season. Although they are temporary, they provide really important habitat for amphibians and invertebrates who breed and lay their eggs here. Take a second to think about the animals you think will live in these vernal pools. We'll talk about them today. Vernal pools can vary in all sorts of ways depending on the time of their filling, the habitat surrounding them, and the plants and animals that are found here. Although this might be the case, there are some defining characteristics that make vernal pools what they are. Vernal pools have no inlets or outlets, meaning that there are no other bodies of water that connect to them. They are filled by the melting snow and rainwater in the spring months, and by late summer, they dry up. These temporary and isolated pools are free of breeding populations of fish, making them a nearly predator-free habitat. This is really important for all of the vulnerable amphibian and invertebrate eggs that are being laid in the pools, because then they won't be eaten by the fish and they will have a chance to develop into young animals. There are many animals that we can find that visit the vernal pools, but there are some amphibians and invertebrates known as indicator species that have evolved so that parts of their life cycle are completely dependent on these temporary fish-free wetlands. Wood frogs, spotted salamanders, and fairy shrimp are all species that depend on vernal pools to complete their life cycle. Fairy shrimp are fascinating, soft-bodied relatives of crabs and lobsters that only live in vernal pools. The short life cycles of the fairy shrimp are specialized for these seasonal ponds. As the pools fill in the spring, fairy shrimp begin hatching, and within weeks they mature and start feeding on all of the algae found in the pools. Before the vernal pools dry up, the females begin producing hardy eggs that can survive throughout the dry season and only hatch the next spring. How incredible! During a warm, rainy spring night, frogs and salamanders emerge from their wintering beds and are drawn towards the vernal pools. Wood frogs are a light tan to dark brown colored frog that mostly live on land, and they are the first to arrive to the vernal pools. They are very difficult to notice because of how well they camouflage with the ground cover and the leaves on the forest floor. The male wood frogs come together in a breeding chorus calling. Some people mistake their calls for ducks quacking. Spotted salamanders spend most of their lives in forested areas, often traveling through small burrows, crevices in rock walls, and tunneling beneath wooden logs. They are most often seen at night in early spring when they are migrating towards the pools. For the next few weeks, the frogs and salamanders will breed and lay their eggs, attaching them to plants, twigs, and branches found in the pool. Once their laying is over, the frogs and salamanders return towards the forest to live for the rest of the year. These pools may seem small, they are a very important piece of a much larger food web that surrounds the forest. The thousands of eggs that are laid in these pools, as well as the amphibians and vertebrates you can find in them, are really important food sources for much larger animals that we can see in the surrounding forest, like raccoons, hawks, coyotes, foxes, turkeys, snakes, and much more. Of lands for homes and roadways, habitat loss, and climate change are some of the most significant threats that vernal pools face. We will talk more about these threats in our next video. For now, thanks for joining me for our first video about vernal pools, and I hope to see you all out here very soon.